Welcome to Common Man Cocktails. I'm your host, Derek Schomer. Today we're going to talk about hangovers and alcohol. Why do certain alcohols give you a hangover, and why do certain ones seem like you wake up the next day and it's not so bad? Here's the first general blanket rule. Ethanol, alcohol that you consume, tends to give you the hangovers type symptoms generally. And the reason behind that is because ethanol creates stress on your body for a number of reasons. Dehydration, it's a diuretic. Inflammation, it makes your liver work harder. There's a whole lot of common sense reasons why alcohol would do that. And we've had alcohol for a few years now, since like before Egyptians and everything else that came before that. So, as a common sense rule, products that have more alcohol, let's say Stro 160, have a better chance of giving you some sort of a hangover property. But one of the bigger culprits that people don't really recognize are congeners. And congeners are those little toxins that can be found in a distilled spirit and a fermented spirit, usually from fermentation down into distillation. Methanol, acetone, esters, tannins, these are all names for congeners. Congeners are these little molecules that do two things. They can create those hangovers or enhance and make them a little bit more severe, but they also do something very positive. Congeners are what bring the flavors and the aromas to your spirits. So when you're looking at a brown spirit and you're like, wow, this has great flavors of leather and banana and ripe apples, and those are your congeners at work. So it comes down to, what are the congeners, how many parts are there per unit of alcohol, and in general what that means are darker spirits tend to have more of these, from anything from bourbons, whiskeys, red wines, some beers, whatever. You're looking at having more of those present. But if you're drinking things like clear spirits, vodkas, rums, gins, this is actually a gin, those are going to tend to have less. So if you have somebody drinking bourbon and somebody drinking vodka in slight excess, the person that's drinking bourbon is probably going to have a bigger hangover the next day. It becomes a delicate balance of impurities, how many you want and how many you don't want. And that becomes either the master distiller or your corporate overlord, whatever one has more power. A distiller is going to try and create nice natural aromas and impurities to create those flavors, but also balance that against the crisp cleanness of the spirit in the distillate. However, a corporate overlord might say the more impurities and filler we add in there, the less volume of really pure spirit we're going to need. It's going to be a cheaper thing to make, produce, and sell. The beginning role of that distillation is going to basically be poisons, and the end is going to be very much similar to that. So you really want to trap everything in the middle. Well, the more you let through of the toxins, the worse taste, the more aggressive taste in the foul nature of that spirit, which you can then hide behind sugar. So you really want to create something that's, the heart is really tasty, but you want to leave some impurities, where corporate overlords tend to do more impurities, cheaper products. So of course, if you create a cheaper product, the easiest thing to do is to add sugars to round it out and make it more flavorful. Guess what also can have its leads to hangovers? You can have a sugar hangover. You can have an alcohol hangover. When you bring the two together, you have a larger hangover. You have sugars and spirits, liqueurs, there's a little bit of sugar in some rums, not Mazan, however, that is a sugar, there's no sugar added rum, sugar and a lower grade alcohol to kind of round it out. So you're bringing both of those together. How do you feel at the end of that? Woo! And then not so woo. But wait, what about the beer before liquor, never quicker, liquor before beer, you're in the clear, however that goes. And the reason people say if you drink beer first, then you have hard alcohol after it, you're in a bad way, because the beer loosens you up and you start to make bad decisions, and then you're doing shots of vodka and you're like, oh, it's awesome. Then your pants fall off. That's all just the game of moderation and stupid decision making. There's a lot of stupid things you could do when you've consumed lots of alcohol. So then the reverse. Well, if I have hard spirits first and then I taper myself off with alcohol, I should be good, because I stopped myself from getting drunk here. Then I went to a low ABV over here, so I'm rolling it out, and then I'm going to go to bed. No. See, the problem is carbonation also helps to absorb alcohol. So you put a lot of alcohol in your body, I don't care where it came from, then you add carbonation, I don't care where it came from, you're creating an effect that's amplified. So it's not any better. That means too many Moscow Mules, gin and tonics, whatever has carbonation, beers, it still comes down to balance. But wait, there's more. Then you have, and this was always a cloudy area for me. I assumed people that were heavier, obese, just bigger than I am, which is not hard to do, tend to consume alcohol better, and I would get drunk first. Turns out that's actually not true at all. So the way it really works, and this is kind of science and everything, is that lean muscle actually absorbs alcohol better, so it can actually pull the alcohol out of your bloodstream. If you have a lot more fat, fat is going to push it away. So now you've kept the alcohol into your bloodstream. So people that are heavier and have more fat, and this includes women, because women naturally have a higher fat than men, women tend to get drunk a little faster. Not always the case, obviously, but as a general rule, people that are heavier or have higher fat will tend to get drunk faster. Who knew? But you don't believe me, right? Simple. Take a bottle of water, take a glass of water, a shot of water, add in a little of your favorite spirit, or the one you don't like. Notice it just kind of, it's soluble, goes right into the water. You can no longer separate them. You can boil them, but you can no longer separate them with your eyes. However, if you add a bunch of fat, I don't know, butter or something, if you just have fat at home hanging out, and then you put alcohol in it, they separate. That's science, my friends. You can visually see it. It happens in your body as well. Bottom line, why do you think college kids get drunk faster than everybody else and end up with a wicked hangover? First, they're probably adding carbonation to their beverages, either beers or Red Bull or soda, rum and cokes. The other thing they're probably doing is they're buying a little bit of Jose Cuervo Especial because it's cheaper. They're doing 2 shots instead of the 1. And because a lower grade alcohol, this is 51% tequila or not 100%, the rest is going to be sugars and other fillers added. And we talked about sugar, you know how that's going to affect you. It's probably not the best grade of alcohol, so you know how that's going to affect you. It's going to have those additional congeners. Then you could instead have moved up to, say, 100% de agave, same brand, right? Still Jose Cuervo, so you're staying true to your brand that you love. You're probably having 1 shot instead of 2, or you're making a cocktail out of it instead. The next thing you're probably thinking is, oh, well then I'll just finish the night off with a couple beers because I want to be able to slow my roll. You've added all that alcohol into your body. You're probably not in shape because you're in school, so you're doing a lot more classes and partying, a lot less exercising. So you're taking that alcohol that's sitting in here because it can't be absorbed into your muscles, and you're adding carbonation to that effect, thus enhancing the entire process. The next day, you probably feel like you should die. So what we've learned is that brown spirits are going to impact you and affect you differently the next day. Could have a worse hangover for some people. People who are drinking more of the clear spirits, the vodkas, the rums, the gins, the rums that probably have a little less sugar in them. We'll do a video later on to show you the sugar contents that can be added to a rum. If you're using like a Mizan, which doesn't have any additional sugars, it's going to be pure distillate. It's a good distillate. There will be congeners in there. It is not a clear, fully refined spirit down to a neutral vodka type effect. But you want to be able to have that balance of enjoyment and that not hangover times. My number 1 rule to not having a hangover after a night of partying is moderation. You're hearing it, but you're not listening. If you drink less, it doesn't always have to be pound down 4 drinks in an hour in order to have a good time. Drink a good, flavorful cocktail. Spend time enjoying the process of the build, the flavor profile, the notes, and less time on figuring out how many you can consume in an hour. You're probably going to get into a better habit as a general rule. And this really works for anything. Fast food, in moderation. Like really moderated. Alcohol, in moderation. Hell, people could die from drinking too much water. Moderation is really the answer. However, if that doesn't work for you, and you're looking for a way to kind of skirt the system a little bit closer, try sticking to the clear spirits and hydrating in between. You're probably going to end up with a little bit less of an aggregated hangover the next day. But I don't guarantee anything because first off, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I don't have a PhD, but I do know how to drink. We're teaching you how to do the same. All tequila must be made within Mexico. Not only that, they all have to adhere to some strict standards and guidelines. You may notice Jalisco is listed on pretty much all your bottles. If you look at them, it'll probably say Hencho in Jalisco, Jalisco, Mexico.